G'day everyone, it's John here from the Ohazas podcast, the big Ohazas to you all. It's literally, about 7 in the morning now, something like that. It's 8, it's almost 8 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, we're here in this beautiful park in Nagoya City. It's kind of cold, so I'm going to make this quick. It's the first time I'm doing this. Anyway, Merry Christmas as well. If you can see, I'm wearing the Christmas hat today. If you're watching the video, if you're watching the audio version, I'm basically just wearing a Santa hat. So Merry Christmas to everyone, because we've only got a couple of days left. It's already the 20th. It's the 20th of December already, so I've only got 5 days till Christmas. So a big Merry Christmas to everyone, because I don't think I'll be doing another episode before Christmas. I might be putting out other little videos and things on X or on my shorts or whatever, but this might be the last official episode before Christmas in 2024. So anyway, let's get started on today's episode. I'm going to start off with a funny story. I was in Yokohama the other day, and beautiful trip as always. I love going to Yokohama. It's one of the most beautiful cities in Japan, I reckon. And while there, in the convenience store, a lady walks in, actually ran in, and she was frantically asking the shop attendant for disposable panties. Yes, you heard that right. She was looking for disposable panties. Obviously, there had been some kind of a toilet emergency, but it was one of those things where, you have to sort of look twice and go, did she really say disposable panties? Anyway, so things turned out okay. I think they actually had some in stock, which I thought was kind of cool, because I don't know if back in Australia, do the convenience stores back home in Australia have disposable panties? I'm not too sure about that. Let me know if you know. But luckily they were able to help her out. So that's something funny that happened on the last trip to Yokohama. Also, while there, I managed to get to the Landmark Hotel again. Landmark Tower, and caught the sunset there. Beautiful, like I recommended in the last episode. You can see the sunset with Mount Fuji. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. Obviously, it can't be too cloudy when that's happening, otherwise you won't see anything. But you will always see, no matter what the weather is, you'll see a 360-degree view of the area, which is absolutely beautiful. I highly recommend going to the Landmark Tower if you get a chance. Next up, I want to talk about unexploded bombs. Another one was found. I actually reported on one of these last year, if you remember. It was back in July, not my first episodes, but it was one of our earlier episodes, something like episode 20 or 30, around there somewhere. And there was one in a place called Moriyamaku in Nagoya City, and that one was found while they were doing some construction work. They managed to get rid of it safely, so that was okay. This time it was apparently near some subway lines, so they closed down 2 major subway lines in Nagoya City, which is a huge deal. Huge deal. These lines have thousands of commuters every day, and I'm sure they chose Sunday on purpose because it was on the 15th, Sunday the 15th of December, and they did that intentionally, I believe, so they could impact as few customers as possible. And they were, they did manage to get rid of that thing successfully. There were no injuries or anything like that, no accidents. And I'm not sure how they actually found this unexploded bomb this time. Last time it was while they were doing some construction work. They literally, I think, had a bulldozer and they were, cleaning up some land or whatever, clearing some land, and they just found this unexploded bomb. This time I'm not too sure. I didn't find any details on that. Maybe or maybe I can find out a bit later on. But they closed down Higashiyama line and Sakuradori line and Higashiyama line. They closed those 2 down to clear that bomb. So that was a bit of a big thing in Nagoya City on last Sunday. Oh yes, I forgot to mention, while I was in Yokohama, I went to a place called Kamonomiya, and I always say that place like that. Do you ever say stuff in Japanese in like an accent? I've always found for some reason that Italian accents work really well with Japanese. Usually whenever I say Kamonomiya, I usually give that the Italian, you got to do the fingers too, Kamonomiya. It just works. Odawara is the next station. It just doesn't have that same Italian ring to it. Odawara. Not so much. But Kamonomiya, I don't know, maybe it's the miya at the end. Kamonomiya works perfectly. Anyway, while I was totally off topic there, while I was in Kamonomiya, I noticed this monument. I'll put a picture up right here on the screen. And this monument here is to sort of mark Kamonomiya as the birthplace of the Shinkansen, the bullet train. And you wouldn't guess it. It's a really, really quiet, like there's nothing, it doesn't look like there's anything special there. It's just like this suburb. And all of a sudden, when you get to the station there's this kind of interesting monument with a model Shinkansen, an early model Shinkansen on top of it. And it looks really kind of intriguing, and you sort of walk up to it and go, what's going on here? And you would never think that that's the birthplace of the Shinkansen. So it's apparently where they were doing some testing of the initial lines when the Shinkansen first opened, and apparently that's why it's called the birthplace of the Shinkansen. I also found a couple of really cool little flags around the Shotengai. They have, I think I took some pictures, so if I have some pictures, I'll put them up here on the screen if you're watching YouTube, or the video on X. If you're listening on audio, I'm sorry you won't be able to see it, but if you go through my X timeline, I'll see if I can put a picture on there for you. But they have these cute little flags that commemorate the birthplace of the Shinkansen, Kamonomiya, and you'll see that there as well. Very cute little designs, and it feels kind of retro, kind of vintage. So I really like that look, and yeah, it's a nice little place. Kamonomiya, by the way, it's not a city, obviously, but it's only one stop away from Odawara, which is quite a large city, and there's a massive castle over there, which I shared in the last episode. I think I mentioned how I went to the castle there. Beautiful, beautiful places, but Kamonomiya is just more like a suburb, and there's cute little shops everywhere, little bars and izakaya and that kind of thing. So if you feel like doing something different, you probably want to pop by. It's only a stop away from that major station, Odawara, where you can also get a Shinkansen as well. It's kind of a nice little place. They even play a nice little tune when the trains arrive and depart. Actually, no, I think it's when the trains depart is when they play that tune. But it's a cute little place with a really, really interesting history. The castle has a fantastic history over there. So I highly recommend catching Odawara if you can on your way between Nagoya and Tokyo, or even if you're just traveling like Shizuoka or something like that, you can probably get the Kodama train and get off somewhere at Shizuoka or Mishima, places like that. There's all these beautiful stops along the way. Yes, okay, and next up, oh yeah, the bowing mannequins. I was flicking through my photo archive the other day, and was it yesterday, I think? Yesterday or the day before yesterday, I was flicking through my Google Photos photo archive, and I found this photo from 2019, and it just made me giggle. It was like, those things that you find when you get to Japan, you sort of see these things for the first time, and you go, that's interesting, it's kind of not something I would have seen back home. So I took a photo of it, and it's these bowing mannequins, and they make perfect sense in Japan. I mean, we don't bow back in Australia unless we're, playing some kind of a role in a drama. But over here in Japan, people are bowing all the time when they say thank you, when they say sorry, when they greet each other, all that kind of stuff. So you want to know what you look like from behind when you're bowing, right? You want to make sure that your trousers aren't sort of sliding down your bum. If you're a tradesman in Australia, maybe you do want that look. I think it's a prerequisite for a lot of our electricians and plumbers back home in Australia, or probably even around the world, is when you do your work, you have to show a bit of crack while you're down there. But in Japan, that's not a good look. So you want to make sure that your pants are kind of sitting up high and not going down your bum. So they've got these bowing mannequins, and so they demonstrate, the bowability of these clothes. But yeah, that was something interesting that I saw back in 2019 that I thought was worth capturing, and it somehow resurfaced while I was browsing through my archive. You know how Google sort of brings up things from the past automatically? It says, this happened 5 years ago or whatever. I think it was in one of those, and I was like, hey, I remember taking that photo. It was in a place called Unimall, I think, which connects the Kokusai Center Station and Nagoya Station. Both can be found on the Sakuradori line. That's one of those subway lines that got closed when they were cleaning the bomb. So yeah, that was an interesting find in my photo archive, which I thought was worth sharing. Oh yeah. sorry for jumping around all over the place. Back to the Shinkansen bit. While I was on the platform there in, I think it was Mishima, I had to change trains in a place called Mishima, which I briefly mentioned. It's in between Odawara and Nagoya. Over there in Mishima, there was a, what do you call them? Noodle shop, I guess you could call it. And not every single Shinkansen platform has these, but some do. Nagoya has one. The one in Nagoya does kishimen, which is their regional noodle variety, which is fantastic. It's kind of like a fettuccine. It's a flat noodle, and it goes really nice with a lot of things. Kind of treated like udon, but it's the Nagoyan variety. So the Nagoya platform, the bullet train platform, has kishimen, but most places have udon and soba. And, you know, usually with the usual varieties, kitsune, tempura, all that kind of stuff. And it was so good, and I totally needed it. I didn't have time, and I think that's one of the reasons why they do so well. One, they taste great, right? That's one reason. Another reason is because you're rushing sometimes. And I literally got my ticket while I was on the smartphone. I bought, by the way, there's a fantastic app if you're in Japan called Smart EX, I think it's called, EX Express or Smart EX, something like that. It's an app, and you link it up with your commuter card and your credit card. And just with a few taps, you can buy yourself a bullet train ticket. And that's exactly what I did. I bought my ticket and got through the gates within the space of about 2 minutes, right? And you couldn't do that before. Before these apps existed, you had to go line up and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I did all that in 2 minutes, and the only downside was I didn't have time to get any food. And I was hungry, and I was taking because I was getting the train from Odawara, I had to get, I mean, there are fast trains, I think, from Odawara. I think you can get the Hikari, but it's not every Hikari that stops at Odawara. So I had to get the next one, and the next one was not the Hikari, it was something else, the Kodama or whatever it is. And so I had like a 2-hour trip ahead of me instead of a 1-hour trip. And so I needed something to eat. I hadn't had lunch. And I thought, oh, you know what, this is perfect. I'm stopping at Mishima because I had to change trains at Mishima, and I had a 20-minute stop over there. And I was like, I hope they have something in Mishima, you know, because I don't stop there often. It's probably the second time ever in my life that I've stopped at Mishima. And so I knew that I'd be able to get something like a little snack or a bento or something like that, but it was really, really nice to see that they had one of these noodle shops right there on the platform, and I got myself a beautiful kitsune udon, and it was just delicious. There was, you know, really nice old guy at the counter there preparing the food all by himself, and he was pretty busy actually, and he was doing really well. But yeah, it was really, really nice to have that, and sort of, you know, I recharged my batteries over there on the platform, and I got back on the train, and off I went back to Nagoya. But if you get a chance to try out one of these places for noodles on the bullet train platforms, I highly recommend that you do, because it's absolutely delicious, and especially in, you know, time of year like this when it's really cold, those hot noodles are just absolutely beautiful. Anyway, speaking of food, Kyoto burger. A lot of you out there who are in Japan who have walked past Burger King chain sort of restaurant branches, you'll know that there's something out at the moment called the Kyoto burger, and it has a layer of rice at the bottom of the burger. And, you know, it's been, a lot of people have been talking about it, and it's kind of like, yeah, I don't know about rice in my burger, and I was the same. I was like, you know, that's not going to work for me. But I got curious, and because sometimes these things can taste good. Things that look like so-so, they can actually taste all right if you give them a chance. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to keep an open mind. I've been reading this book recently, and it goes on about keeping an open mind, being positive and whatnot. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to try practicing that bit of advice that was in the book. And so I was like, you know what, I haven't tried it, so I don't know that it's bad, so I'm going to ask some people. So I went on X, and I asked my followers on X if anyone has tried it, because to be honest, everyone's been going on about how disgusting it looks and how bad it is, but no one's, in my feed anyway on X, no one has actually said that they've actually tried it. So I was like, you know what, maybe it tastes good. There's a small chance that it tastes good. The closest thing that I've had to that, personally, is what was that place in Sydney? They do fancy burritos and tacos. Is it Guzman and Gomez or something? Guzman and Gomez? Something like that. But there's this fancy taco place. I don't know if they're still around in Sydney, but they were around, I think it was in Newtown when I tried it. I think I tried it at the Newtown branch. Anyway, they put rice in their burritos, and apparently that's a thing in Mexican food, but for me it was something new. I'd never put rice in a wrap before in my life, and I was like, at first I was like, yeah, and I tried it and it was actually pretty damn good. It's not something I'd go out of my way for, but it was actually pretty decent. Like it wasn't bad, and it tasted good. So I was like, you know what, maybe it's a bit like that burrito. But anyway, I put that tweet out. It was yesterday or the day before, and a couple of people replied, and thanks for replying, by the way. I actually now feel like having one. So I might actually go and get one today for lunch if I get a chance, and I'll be reporting on that later on. One more thing before we get to our last segment, Word of the Day, which I do every episode. If you're a new viewer, by the way, thanks for tuning in. And, we do something called Word of the Day at the end of every episode, which is where I bring up a Japanese word that's connected to something I've spoken about during the show. And that's coming up next. But before we close up today, I quickly want to say thank you to Water Vice Versa, one of our followers on X. And they sent me a beautiful PDF of some fantastic looking cafes in Nagoya. Nagoya's got a really nice, kind of like a hidden cafe culture. Maybe it's not so hidden, but it's not talked about very often. And it's nice like that because people don't want all these places to get too crowded, and they don't want them to turn into tourist spots because they're literally in people's backyards and just around the corner from home. It's their local coffee spots. So they just want to keep these places relatively low key. But they make awesome stuff, awesome food, awesome coffee, but some of them are gaining popularity and some of them are sort of, targeting customers in that way. So keep an eye out for these kinds of things. Anyway, I'll be posting that link up. It's a beautiful little PDF with photos and things and information about coffee shops and cafes and all that kind of thing. But I'll be sharing that on my X feed as well. Thanks very much, Water Vice Versa, for sending that in. Really appreciate it. Okay, lastly, we have, as I was saying, Word of the Day. And today's Word of the Day is connected to the first story that I mentioned about the convenience store episode, where someone came in running looking for disposable panties. And this word disposable actually comes up quite a bit in Japanese. And I mean, even in English, disposable chopsticks, disposable cameras, disposable panties, you name it. There's a lot of, situations where you might want to use the word disposable. And the word is tsukaiste, tsukaiste. Tsukai is to use and ste means to throw away. So it's just basically use and throw away. So it's a really handy word, and as always, I'll be putting up a little language card on my X feed with the kanji and hiragana and the readings in English, along with the definition and all that kind of stuff. You can find that on our X feed, and it's always got that hashtag on it, or Hazas WOTD. WOTD stands for Word of the Day. So if you click on that hashtag, you'll actually be able to see all of our past Word of the Day words come up in a nice little list there for you. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and as I was saying at the beginning of the episode, have a fantastic Christmas and an awesome New Year. Bye for now.